He was saying if 40, 50% of ordinary criminals go back,
Yeah.
the fact that 20% of terrorists go back, and he said, that's not so bad. Well, if he can't tell the difference between a shoplifter and an Al-Qaeda terrorist who was out to kill thousands of Americans and non-believers, then John Brennan does not deserve to have that job. And I think he's done a poor job from the start. I think he totally mishandled the whole situation in Detroit. He refuses to share information with Congress, and so I just don't think that John Brennan right now is the person for that job. Now, having said that, there are some good people in the administration. Leon Panetta, I think, is doing the best he can as head of CIA, and he's defending his people very well because, or he's trying to anyway, because you have people like Eric Holder who are beginning criminal investigation against the CIA. You had different reports that were made public by the president, by Eric Holder.
It was like their first order of business was to start attacking the people that protect us.
Protected us. And Leon Panetta has been fighting back against that. You have Dennis Blair, who's the director of national intelligence, I think doing a good job. And it was interesting, when all of them were testifying in Congress after the Detroit bombing, they all said that they were never consulted about whether to give Miranda warnings to Abdul Muttalib. And that, so it was Janet Napolitano, it was Dennis Blair, it was Leon Panetta, and I also think Mike Lyatt, who was head of the National Counterterrorism Center. Anyway, none of them was consulted, and yet, Brennan is the person who appears to be at the epicenter of all this.
Right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the White House at this stage supposed to have their own kind of interrogation squad? That once somebody was, suspected of being a terrorist, where the White House would take over from where the CIA used to do it. Now the White House would have their own special team to interrogate or debrief this guy.
Last summer, the president very dramatically and self-righteously announced that he would no longer allow terror. He would no longer allow harsh interrogations. He had actually set up this very precise, specialized interrogation team known as the HIG, the High Value Interrogation Group.
Right.
Well, except we find out it was never set up. And it was interesting because Admiral Blair, who's the director of national intelligence, when he was testifying in January, he was saying no. He said that they should have not just had the FBI from Detroit interrogating Abdul Muttalib. This was the ideal case of bringing the HIG, the new interrogation group.
Right.
And then Dennis Blair had to come back the next day, correct his testimony, and say, even though it would have been ideal, they couldn't because they hadn't even been set up yet. So I mean, it's not even in place. It's from August until January. There was still no interrogation team in place. Maybe it's in place as of last week. I don't know. But I mean, this again shows the lack of intensity that this president should have. Any president should have, because this is a threat. This threatens our entire civilization, and yet the interrogation team, which the president himself said was so important, wasn't even set up. Nobody bothered to follow up on it. Nobody was saying, where is it? So anyway, it just shows, in many ways, they're very uncoordinated as to how they deal with issues such as what happened with the Christmas Day bomber. And then they lash out against anyone who criticizes them. John Brennan says, if you criticize what they did, you're undermining the war against terrorism. If anyone undermined the war against terrorism, it was some of the players in this administration who totally mishandled us.
The war is lost. You want to talk about it? That was a disgrace.
Yeah. When historians look back on the year of 2006, 2007, 2008, the decision by President Bush and the implementation by General Petraeus and General Odierno of the surge in Iraq will be looked upon, I believe, as not just a game changer, to use the current word, but really a historic moment.
A turning point.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that war was lost if you believe the Baker and Hamilton Commission, if you listen to so many people that just thought it couldn't be done. President Bush overrode most of his military advisors because the military did not want the surge. And he basically went outside the chain of command, if you will, and reached out to General Petraeus. And General Petraeus agreed to implement the surge. And just as that surge was at its key moment, you had Harry Reid stand up on the Senate floor and say the war is lost. You had, of course, Barack Obama and Joe Biden saying it couldn't be won, but probably
now absorbing credit.
Oh, that's the other thing.
Well, that to me is hysterical.
One of the great triumphs of the Obama administration is the war in Iraq.
Ability to absorb undue credit and deflect blame.
Wow.
That'll be their epitaph, I believe.
I would think so. Just like Democrats in New York who were taking credit for the trial coming out of New York after they supported
All of a sudden,
it all.
yeah.
Right.
I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. Any aspirations for the Senate seat? I know there's been a lot of buzz out there, and I wanted to come talk to you myself and ask you.
Yeah, I'm not being cute. I mean, it would be great to be a United States Senator. I would have run against Caroline Kennedy. I would have been, first of all, it takes about $20–30 million to run a race. Maybe, of course, this could be a good Republican year. Maybe that becomes $15 million to be competitive, but still, you're outnumbered. There's about 2.8 million more Democrats than Republicans in the state. But I would have run against Caroline Kennedy because, one, there would have been tremendous attention on the race.
Sure.
And maybe it's sort of an Irish thing about the different types of Irish, and I don't necessarily think that the Kennedys represent what I consider Irish America to be. That's sort of a side issue.
I agree with you on that.
But no, it would have gotten the attention, and that would have generated funding, it would have generated support, and it would have generated a lot of attention on the race. And then, if I won, though, in November, it's still just a 2-year term because it's the balance of Hillary Clinton's term. So you have to start running again in 2012.
Meaning you'd be going after Gillibrand.
No, I'm just saying that if I'd run against Caroline Kennedy, I still would have been up for re-election again in 2012. Anyway, now with Gillibrand in there, Kirsten Gillibrand in there, I decided not to run, and the reason I say it is I think she's very beatable. But I would have to spend virtually every moment of the year from now through Election Day going all over the state raising money. I think I've got $1.5 million in my campaign account now. It sounds like a lot, but it's not. That's like a one-day.
Not in campaign world.
It's really not.
Yeah.
So I have to spend every moment just out there raising money between now and Election Day. If I was fortunate enough to be elected, I had to start all over again for 2012.
Oh, I got you.
And
okay. See, a lot of people don't know that. They don't know
so
the
I would have been
Reagan
doing nothing but doing that. And now, as the ranking member of the Homeland Security Committee, because my real interest in New York and New York City and Long Island, the New York City region, and Long Island, and with Islamic terrorism being the main issue.
Sure.
I'm the ranking member of the Homeland Security Committee, so I deal with this every day. I have access to a lot of the information. I deal with Commissioner Kelly. I deal with all the federal agencies. I deal with overseas governments on this. So if I were going to Watertown and Oneonta and Binghamton and Skaneateles, all these places, I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't be able to do my job. And I think we can take back the House of Representatives this year, which means I would then become chairman of the Homeland Security Committee again, and it would put me in a real position, especially with this administration, which I feel we're going to have real philosophical problems with over the next several years. So that's a long way of saying, no, I'm not going to run for the Senate.
Okay, I know there's going to be a lot of disappointed people out there.
Yeah, and actually this is
Do you see anybody out there maybe give her a good
I know that Bruce Blakeman is running. I've known Bruce. He was in the Port Authority. He lost his nephew on September 11th. So on the terrorism issue, he's very much on target. And as far as I think that seat can be won. And interestingly enough, in this case, usually it's the candidate's family that does not want him to run. Actually, my wife and my daughter both wanted me to run. My son, he was sort of like me, but so this is the case. Actually, my family did want me to run, or at least half my family did. My wife, the most important, did. But I just
that's usually the ones that makes the decisions.
But yeah, she wanted me to run. But again, when I thought of what it takes and the time it would take, and to me, I can get more done in the position I have now. But it was not an easy decision, and it's a great honor to even be considered.
Okay. Sorry to hear that once again. But, Mr. King, is there anything a man in your position could do to help with the gridlock that has transpired for almost the last decade down at Ground Zero? I mean, the point that we have absolutely nothing built down there. Meanwhile, we're all over the world, building up Iraq, building up Haiti, rebuilding Afghanistan. We're putting all these resources and monies, and we're managing to get through all that red tape. But meanwhile, right in the heart of our own city, we have this giant hole of debt that represents them beating us. I mean, if I'm an Arab terrorist and I look at what has progressed down there, to me, I say, look, we broke their spirits. They haven't rebuilt, they haven't healed, we can still get them. And that more than Gitmo, to me, is a recruiting tool. Okay, that is a recruiting tool, not Gitmo. Okay, to me, Gitmo has got a great purpose and should
Right.
stay open forever.
Yeah.
But